welcome to another edition of the Motley Croc Show. It is June 15, 2023. It seems like we do these every day, even though it's every week, but things have a tendency to fly. So in the background, I have a very good friend of mine by the name of Rachel. She has a whole bunch of stuff going on, so she'll be popping in here shortly. I've got Jimbo. What's up, bud?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Man, it's good to see you, buddy. And we have Sideswipe. What's up? I think Jeff may be working and Brittany's coming.
What's up, Brett?
What's going on, brother?
And we have some people. I'll get to the comments. And there's Rachel. What's up, Rachel?
Hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
We also have Brittany popping in here shortly. Well, Rachel, you remember coming on the show years ago? We did a show called Dick Pics.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
So when we very first started the Motley Croc Show, we did all these crazy things, and we did a show called Dick Pics because, you know, people in the industry, obviously not myself or Jimmy, are sending their hot dog all over the place to random people. It was a pretty stupid thing to do. So we brought some girls on to talk about that. We had a couple people, but she came in person, and Jake was with us. It was actually a pretty fun show. So has that kind of thing kind of simmered down a little bit, or do you still have to deal with that in the today's element?
You still have to deal with it all the time.
Really?
Especially like right after, like if you go to a reptile show and they've met you, for some reason they find a way to like get your contact or get you on Facebook, and they automatically
So people still do that? Like, is that even a thing? I mean, I don't think, I might do that to Jimmy just to fuck with him, but I can't send it.
They still do that. Yep. And they'll start off like it's a picture and it's like, how do you like this type of thing? It's like, we really don't like it.
I just don't understand that. I mean, because that's not something I think I would ever do. So now I understand we've talked about this before in the past where you talk about people coming in or whatever, but
yeah,
if you talk about like, what's the word? Your couples, that's different. Sending each other things, that's a couple. But just random people, I just don't know that that's like a plausible thing to do.
Yeah.
Brett?
Or they're comparing them to the snakes they own.
Oh.
That's the funny one.
Are you kidding? I can't my snakes. I'm sorry. No way you're leaving a 17-foot dick out there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. So, I mean, Brett's a good friend of mine. We pretty much grew up together in Colorado. Is that something that they do out there, man? Like
the dick pics?
Yeah.
I've never sent one. And to be honest with you, it's kind of weird that you still get them. So you go to a reptile show and then you just get random guys sending you dick pics that you get contacts to.
Oh, yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to come up with the most disgusting picture possible or whatever and just start shooting them back. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I just ignore them now.
I've heard of the phenomenon, but I've never done it. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Like I said, if you're with somebody or you're married or you're in a serious relationship or you're, whatever you're into, whatever your partner, guy, girl, guy, whatever you are, I understand that. I understand, like, you want to do stuff like that. That's perfectly understandable. You're sharing something between your person. But I think randomly somebody doing that is just like, and I mean, like, that's another reason that Jimmy, you can understand in the reptile industry is that's not something I do. I know Jimmy doesn't do that, at least not that I know of. And I think that so, and we are in the industry, like everybody goes, reptile industry. I like reptiles and I have them, but I like all animals. So I have a plethora of animals. So maybe that's why if I was totally like a lizard or snake guy, maybe I'd be firing off my worm everywhere, I guess. But I'm not. So I mean, I guess Brittany, you go out to a lot of conventions and you do a lot of things and you're not getting that. So I think it's the caliber of people.
No.
Right?
And I say from anyone else, it's just the reptile industry.
Right. It's the caliber of people because, I mean, I think that's unprofessional. And unfortunately, that's a lot of the reason. And the reason it's good that we're talking about that because I think that's a lot of the reason that, the reptile industry has a bad name, for one. And why is it that slimy people like that want to like reptiles? I mean, I think reptiles deserve to be liked by other people besides dick slingers.
Yeah. And they aren't all slimy. I met a few good ones.
I know, but the majority, and that's a problem we have. You're like gross. Like, okay, so for example, if you're going to go to a big meeting, right? And you're going to go to a meeting in front of Tallahassee. Okay? For those of you watching, know what I'm talking about in the industry. And you're going to go to Tallahassee, dude. It doesn't matter if what your body shape is, rather you're like Jason Momoa or Buddha. You can still take care of yourself and go and be presentable. But when you go in there with cheese on the side of your mouth and you're like, I like my iguana and you take my, what do you think a politician that's going to go out to his Ferrari or Lamborghini and drive home is going to say, I don't give a fuck about that corn tooth. Take those animals away.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta make an impact that you matter, right? Like you can't just be this, because if you can't even take care of yourself to be present in front of a lot of people that you're supposedly supporting, which is your people, and then people like that, how do you expect them to respect you and think that you're well enough to maintain or take care of an animal?
Mm-hmm.
True. Yep.
Yeah. If you can't take care of yourself, that's the first sign that they're going to think you cannot take care of your animal. I mean, there are people in the animal industry, though, that sacrifice things for themselves and they basically pour that onto their animal instead. So, like, there's certain things that they'll remove for themselves out of their own pocket that they would buy for themselves, but and buy it for their animals. Like, you see, like, certain people, you see them and you're like, you have a dog, but then when you see the dog has their own bedroom and they have their own bed and they have all these luxuries, you know? So it's like, but you can tell that there are other people like, you got to take care. Hi.
So, but listen, so those people in the reptile industry, the ones that buy toothpaste, shampoo, body soap, and clothes.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to, look, I can sit on a big alligator, so now I'm 5'1" and I can send my dick pic out to everybody. I think that, you know, and I've also noticed that these little runt guys that got kicked in school or got swirlers shoved in lockers, they end up getting a big snake or an alligator. Next thing you know, they're out there being unprofessional. I mean, have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same county duty cops. They do the same fucking shit. You get this oompa doompa cop out there, man. It's been bullied his whole life. He bullies people back. It's just not a lot of, you know, we as an organization should be holding our people a little more accountable and having other people hold people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
For sure.
I agree. Well, the problem is, too, when you get, like you were saying, you know, and it's a domino effect. If someone starts seeing that guy go up and start talking in front of the commission and he looks like a fucking scumbag, got fucking food all over him, it's going to affect the whole industry. It's not just that one person. It's going to make them feel like everybody's that same, you know, the same way, which is bullshit because it's not, you know.
Exactly.
And there's a couple of these yahoos that live down in Tampa. One of them's like a registered sex offender. Sit the fuck down. You don't need to show up and do anything. What good are you doing, man? Going up there like that. You're already a dirtbag. We don't need you on our side. Get out of here.
Well, you have dirtbags in any field, any industry. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know, I just think the reptile industry, people are a little bit more outspoken, I guess you could say, and don't give a fuck. So that's one of the downfalls, I guess. But
well, let me just give it to you. Let me just tell you like this. So, like, I worked a lot with horses coming up, a lot, you know, being a farrier and really working with them and understanding them. But when you deal with the horse community and someone tries to put a smackdown on something like their horses or what they want, those people come together, man. And they come together in force and they respect each other. And that's something that we seem to lack in the exotic animal. I want to say the exotic animal.
Yeah, as a whole.
You don't have to be a nut job to have a tiger. You don't have to be a nut job to have an alligator. You can be a normal person and just enjoy what you enjoy, and why you do is what you do, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't, so that's one of the things we're talking about. So, like I was saying, comparing apples to oranges, I guess, Brittany, when we go to spook conventions or paranormal conventions, we don't really run into that. I'm not saying that it's not there. I'm just saying that I don't go to reptile shows because to me, it's ball python, bearded dragon, ball python, gecko, ball python. And that's cool. And then there's a lot of guys now that are into things and they used to just be ball python people and that's their thing. And cool for you. But I've seen them already, dude. Like, it was cool when the albino came out. It was cool when there was a piebald back in the 90s. But now there's 9 million of them. Now there's like Lucy, hetero, six skull, burgundy, purple snakes. And then there's, you know, pearl drum, poison, Motley, Croc, Jimmy's. I don't know. And I don't want to see that anymore. And it's a shame. That industry could be amazing, dude. Like, when we used to go there and there were like all kinds of animals, man. There were coconut crabs and you know, lemurs, and people would come in with their coatis, and there was just so many things. Now it's just like ball pythons and dragons. I just when you've seen that too much, it's like the same show over and over again.
Yeah.
Every table's the same.
Right. And then I noticed that a lot of these, and I wish Jeff was here because he goes and he takes his hog nose in there. He does a great job. But you can ask Jeff when we go there. There's fucking like people selling belt buckles and beer openers and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, so you're allowed to sell, like, you know, Trucker Loves Truck Stop t-shirts now at the reptile shows. That was never a thing before.
The last reptile show I went to, I remember I was like, oh, there's a reptile show. I'm going to stop in. I think Finn was really little. He had to be maybe 15 to 18 months old at the time. And I honestly walked in. It was nothing like I remembered reptile shows being, because I hadn't been in so many years. It was like a flea market mixed in with a random couple of tables with reptiles that I like could go anywhere and buy, with like ridiculous animals. And I was just like, this is not a reptile show. I must have misread it outside. And John was like, no, it says Reptile Expo or whatever. Reptile
That's
show.
what I'm saying, because there's
I was like,
two reasons for that. The way the community is.
This is a dog
the
store
reptile people, the thieves, the liars, and the morons that cause problems in the reptile industry, right? That do things so stupid it makes the news and everybody gets in trouble for it, right? Because it scares the general public. And then it's the way the law has been put into place in your animal rights activists. They come down so hard, they've wiped everything out. You can't even go see anything. And I'm sorry, but, you know, it's still America, and animals are still considered property in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay? So people need to understand that and back the fuck off and understand that there's no difference if you want to have an iguana, a bird, a dog, a cat, in Jimmy's case, a Komodo dragon, whatever it is you want.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It would be amazing to have a Komodo.
Yeah, that would be.
Love
That'd be so cool.
What's that?
to own a
A
Komodo.
Komodo dragon.
Don't be so modest, Jimmy. We're working on that now. Relax. So at the end of the day, I mean, I think that would be, people need to understand that, but you should be held accountable for what you do and how you treat your animals.
Yeah.
I still agree with that, but not to the point where the outreach is so fucking hard that they just overtake everything. I mean, like, everything is so, the government is in everything right now. Every fucking thing.
Everything.
Yep. Apparently, I posted a reel the other day. Not only was I fact checked, okay. Not only was I and I'll tell you,
kicked off.
huh?
You were kicked off your page.
Yes. Not only was I
Really?
fact checked, and then my account was suspended, which I immediately disputed because I was like, would you please go and look at my reel? My reel was tagged and suspended and fact checked. And the fact check says, because I talked about Buzz Aldrin landing on the moon. Now, that was not mentioned in my reel at all.
Okay.
My reel was me explaining that there's an amazing book on Amazon called The Cryptid ABCs, which is teaching your kids cryptozoology through ABCs. It's a 4-year-old and up book about cryptozoology. Okay. But because I used the word ufology and I said that I was a ufologist, it triggered the AI.
Well, maybe the AI is going to kick me off now you did that.
So,
Yeah.
no.
There we go. The show's going to glitch.
So I literally
Thank God.
disputed it like ASAP, and it comes back to me within 20 minutes. Like, I was so pissed off. I and I put it up in my story.
Just kidding.
Oh,
Just
no.
Yeah, exactly. And I got so mad, and
I was like, what the fuck?
I'm so sorry, guys. And I didn't know if I was flagged because I had posted a video in regards to, the Vegas alien case and how I'm torn about, like, I didn't know. So anyway, like 20 minutes later, I get an email from Instagram and they're like, thank you for, taking the time and the patience to send us over the dispute. We have reviewed your account and we have reviewed the video in question. And it's, like, basically we apologize for the inconvenience. It was our mistake with our algorithm. Your account is now visible again. You're back live. And I was like,
they just looked into you, and there's probably some haters sent that in.
Dude, fuck those people, man.
Usually what
Yeah,
happens is
exactly.
huh?
they're like, Jimmy's a piece of shit. He's got this. Oh, I'm going to fucking complain on him.
It was about an Amazon video that they flagged me. And I was just like, these damn fact checkers. I want to know who's fact checking the fact checkers.
Just understand.
I been fact checked on a mermaid video because I was offending the mermaid community.
Just understand, dude, that you have to have certain platforms
What?
that this is so the
stupid.
a little harder for me because for them, what I'm doing right now, every now and then, you've seen the show get shut down.
Yeah.
But my company that I use that streams to those comes in from a different IP address. So it's different to track me back to where I'm coming from. Now I can glitch up maybe and stop StreamYard from running or whatever. But since I'm broadcasting to all of those through a different unit, if I was just to be doing this straight on Facebook and say some of the things that you just said or I say usually, I get kicked off right away. Away. But when you come in from a different IP address and you're working through a separate organization, they're funneling things differently, so it takes time. A little bit different. And they're more neutral. You can do whatever you want. You sign a thing with them that says that they're not responsible for anything you say or post. You are held solely responsible by using their program. And I understand that. I would want to do the same thing. What I don't understand is here's what I think's funny. Because when I smoke a little reefer, I start telling the truth. So I'm going to tell the truth. You can use Instagram and Facebook to any platform to say whatever you want to say on, except if you use the word ufologist, Republican, I don't believe this or that, or even as much as, someone said this about this, or use a certain type of group. You may say a certain group, right? But you'll get kicked off for that. But if you want to put it up for your OnlyFans or your porn site or your dick 'em down site, you can use it for that all day long and nobody cares. Mm-hmm. So it's like, where's the guidelines? You can't say ufologist, but you can promote your butthole on it. You want to tell me how that works?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny because I used to remember, this was even just like a year or two ago, you couldn't show nudity on Instagram without it being censored content, right? Not anymore, because I have friends of mine that do nude photography and nude modeling, and it's not blurred. It's right there when it pops up and comes scrolling in, and I'm like, there's no filter on it. There's no hashtag filter on it. It just pops up just through people so it doesn't matter. It's like, oh my God, anybody at any age could see this. And it's like, but if I say one word, I'm kicked off.
Yes. Because they picked algorithms because, and this is okay for whatever anybody's listening. It's okay. It's just a one-sided media group that we happen to use, right? And there really isn't anything in the middle. It's either you can use I don't even know if there's any really heavy right-wing media groups where the conservatives. I think they're idiots too. So don't get me wrong. This so far on both sides bullshit is ridiculous. But when you have like the Meta is all on the one side, so far to the one side, the left, that you can't say things without offending anybody. I got kicked off of Facebook for when we were working at Universal Studios. So I'm gonna explain this so people understand I'm telling a story. So understand I'm telling a story. It's not how I feel. I'm not calling anyone any names. Now, we were at Universal Studios and we worked, and you would get all these people, and we would get drunk. And they would kick your props over, smack you in the face, whatever. It wasn't that great. It was a terrible situation.
Yes, they did.
So I saw that we were making a joke right after 2020. They're like, oh man, they're going to have to sell tickets for, $200 a person per night just to make up the difference and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, that sucks. There goes Halloween Horror Nights. They'll cancel it. I'm like, nah. So I simply stated, I wrote it. I said, all that's going to do is keep all the white trash drunks out of there from ruining and hurting the characters.
Oh, I remember this.
Because I used the word white trash. I was thrown out off this thing.
Yep.
And then I got a letter that said if I identified as X, Y, and Z, or if I was of the ethnicity, I was using slurs, comical, whatever, then I would be okay if I'm telling a story, but I have to follow that. I have to be part of that. Right? Mm-hmm. So you're allowed to use certain lingo or slurs in conversation if you're part of it. Well, I said, have you looked? I wrote them back to Facebook. Have you looked at me? I'm as white trash as they get. Look at my pictures, and they still came back like, oh, sorry, you're banned for 30 days on this account. For white trash. White trash is not people don't get that offended. We're not burning buildings down because someone calls somebody white trash.
Exactly.
That's just, so if they're defending that word, that's crazy. And a lot of times that's a badge of honor, dude. I mean, I used to have a picture of a camper on my ball hat that said white trash. You remember that hat, Brittany? I wear that everywhere.
Yep.
I got a hat that says classy motherfucker on it. You going to kick me off for that too? I mean, people giving all these words power and doing that is ridiculous. And you're right. Paul said if it doesn't fit the left side narrative, then it isn't it's accepted. Correct. So that's what I mean, because some of these platforms are very far left. Now here at the Motley Croc Show, everybody has their own opinion. We don't feel any certain way.
No.
I feel like people need to get it together, and I think they need to come to an understanding. I think this ridiculous over-the-top right and this ridiculous over-the-top left stuff that everybody's doing right now is mostly, to me, it's a made-up way of keeping everybody on each other's nerves. And it causes problems, man, because look at it this way, Brittany, and then you can say it. If me and Jimmy are working together, and he's wearing his blue shirt, and I'm a little red in the light. So for the sake of argument, I'm all the way all right, Jimmy's on the blue, right? But we're working together, right? Well, Jimmy has his opinions, and I have mine, and we're cool, though. But someone calls Jimmy, Troy thinks that the fact that you jump on an alligator's back makes you a piece of shit, and we need to come and stop that. Then somebody picks up and says, Jimmy says that, you're too loud and obnoxious around the animals. And you get that every day. What do you think is going to happen to me and Jimmy over time?
Yep.
We're going to be
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's what it does. And the media does this here. That's why when I come on here, we talk about fun things like bathroom humor and urinals with goatees and paranormal and dick pics. And because that's what life's about, man. What's up, Ange? Good to see you. And I think that people need to come into that understanding, man, that we need to stop acting like that. But there's no platforms that can really work off of to just have a normal conversation. Sometimes you just want to have normal conversation.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say was like
freedom of speech.
By doing that, it's pushing the hate towards each other, and it's an on-purpose goal. You build that hate, you get people to constantly just butt heads. But like you said on this show, I mean, think about it. We all have different opinions or different views. But on this show, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. That's what you believe. Cool. Like, I don't see why it has to be such a problem all the time. Like, if I feel one way, I don't give a crap how you feel. Like, if that's how you feel, I'm cool with it. It doesn't affect me when I go to bed at night. Like, I don't care what you do, unless you're not hurting a child or an animal. I don't care what you do at night. Whatever makes you happy and makes your world go round, we can be friends. I don't give a shit. Yep. I don't care.
That's the way it should be. And Merlin, to answer your question, I've heard of that. I've never been able to get on there. Maybe I'll be able to link the Croc Show there too, but I will definitely look into that.
Oh, cool.
So, I totally agree with what you said, Brittany, and I like to keep this as a form of everybody getting together. What's up, Michael? How you doing, buddy? And I think that we get on the fun topic.
What's up, Michael?
We hold it, but we just get too many. There's just too much bullshit on there. And you know what? We get too many people hating, causing too many problems, and it's absolutely ridiculous anymore. And I totally agree with it. It's
well, even recently, I posted on one of my reels because it was a question I was asking some of the public on one of my reels, and at the very bottom, I just said any hate or inappropriate comments will be deleted because I have had so many people that is like, I'm like, bah.
Well, I want to get into a couple of topics that happened, obviously, Brittany, too, but there's two things they like. I do want to talk to Rachel, too, about your books and stuff, and because your books are kind of like mystery, vampire, haunting kind of stuff, too, so I think that's pretty cool, and that kind of ties into a lot of it. But I'm going to say this for those of you that are watching me from whatever platform you're on. I get some of your direct messages, and as I understand that you think you're trying to be helpful or whatever you're trying to save me or anybody else from, I'm going to start posting them with your names on them. Because I think...
Please do. Please do.
Some of you didn't like the fact that I said, something we're just, death is just, or life without bones or whatever death is. And it says made in hell. And I'm going to elaborate for the 4 morons today that tried to tell me I wasn't made in hell. And how I was made.
Night, Paul.
Okay. So, see you later, Paul.
See you, Paul.
Made in hell was when anytime you build something, a project, or it's not easy. So Jimmy, for instance, building his empire. If you go there any given day of the week and you see Jimmy, he's beat to death, right? He's got bloody hands. He's sweating. He's dug like 15 foam poles in. You know what I mean? He's drank too much soda, passed out. It's hell, right? It's called made in hell, Brett. When you're hanging
Yep.
off the side of a 3-story house and you're cutting in with your business, right? With your home painting business and what you do for a living, it's hell out there, bro. So when you're building from the ground up, what I mean by made in hell is I mean like we're made in hell, man, because everything we've built up to, we've had to deal with so much shit. It is absolutely made in hell. I'm not talking about my soul or their soul or anybody else's. So the fact that you still take that stuff so serious when I put it up there, I'm going to make it worse every time. Because the way I post my videos and the way I put my stories up, if you're intelligent and you really look at what I'm saying and you know what we're about, you'll be able to read between the lines. Here's an example. Today I was watching the sneak releases of Halloween Horror Nights, right? I found out they were casting for that little girl. What's her name?
Morgan,
robot girl.
Or Megan.
Yeah. They said everybody that kind of looked like you, Brittany, with their hair straight. They wanted everybody out there for this multiple stuff. So we're going to have Child's Play, and we're going to have Megan so far that we know of, and The Last of Us.
Oh, yes.
And
I like that.
and it's based off, and what's badass is it's based off the video game, not the movie or the series.
Oh,
Okay, that's
yeah.
cool.
So they just today released merch for The Last of Us. It's the first series of white clothing. White as in the clothing itself is white. It's not made for whites. I don't want to be confusing here. But it's the first series of white clothing that I've ever seen for Halloween Horror Nights with the emblems on them. But the t-shirts are all white. The other shirts are white. All that material is white, so it's cool.
Wow. Yeah.
What's up, homie? Samantha's here. And so that's what we were watching that as a release. So we've got those 3 things coming out for Universal, and I just think that that's really cool. And people were already starting to bash on that. Like,
There's always going to be a group of people that do that.
I couldn't believe some of the stuff we were seeing. I was like, this is what's wrong with people when they just get upset about it. And so that's what I mean. If you're intelligent, you'll know that moral of that story in that video. If you're a Jurassic Park fan, a serious, and you understand Easter eggs, Brittany, do you remember the part of the ladle in the first movie? The ladle.
In Jurassic Park, the first
The
one.
very first one with the ladle. Does anybody remember that?
I don't. The ladle. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what scene you're talking about. Yes, I do. Yep.
What is it?
The ladle. It's a big sweet ladle. It's in the very first movie.
I had to think in my head what the ladle was for a second, but I remember.
What's up, Ashley?
Look at Ashley coming in with a hot one. Tap.
All right, so the ladle in the first movie, the little boy's flying. I'm going to get to this so you understand what I'm talking about. So he sits back against the wall. And there's a whole bunch of kitchen utensils there. Then he actually bumps it. The ladle hits the floor and alerts the raptors.
Okay, the big spoon.
And you see the ladle hitting there. So why I'm getting to this is for those of you who like Universal Studios and their shit they do, they've done it already now. But in the beginning, while they were doing it this month, it's all Jurassic Park. So in the tribute store, in the window, all by itself with nothing but a white curtain, was a ladle. So they were telling the true fans, they weren't coming out saying this is going to be a Jurassic Park. They were saying, so if you walk through Universal Studios and you look at different things, they put Easter eggs throughout that whole park all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. So people are like, oh, we know what this is. There's just one ladle laying in the window in that store, and that's it. Now, the whole month of June, it's been Jurassic Park. But through the whole month of June, there was a ladle. Yeah. It was badass, dude.
That's cool.
So,
Goosebumps.
When you think about that type of stuff, if you watch some of the things that I post or how I post, I'll put little Easter eggs in each different story. And those of you who know me or know what we do will understand that. And that's why I do it. I do it more for me. So when I do stuff like Made in Hell, that's the reason. And the reason I said that today was because earlier the song Highway to Hell came on by AC/DC. And back in the day, every motherfucker was talking about that's a devil's worshiping song. And we're going to burn those albums and cut your t-shirts off and you can fuck off, when all that whole song was about was being on the road. And if you're ever on the road, like Jimmy and I have been on the road, it can be hell sometimes. We've been stuck in tornadoes where we thought the truck was going to blow over. Do you remember that, Jimmy?
Yeah. Yeah.
We blew the fucking turbo in the worst part of Memphis, Tennessee you could ever be in your life.
Yeah.
It was the worst. We go into the hotel, and the guy they looked at me and Jimmy. Well, I can speak for myself. As grody as I look getting out of the fucking truck. He tells us, just don't go out after midnight. Stay in your room. You'll be okay.
Try that looked at Joe like, okay.
Yeah. I'm like thinking, well, Jimmy's got fucking, I don't know, $100,000 rig out here sitting in the front of the thing. That's awesome. We'll just leave it right there, and we won't come out to see if they're robbing it. And we did have to go out all the time. Obviously, we had animals, so we had to go back and forth, and we have to check animals because most people don't do it. But Jimmy gets up throughout the night. We're having a night, especially if it's cold. We go out and check animals all night. We want to make sure the heat's on or we run the generator. It's just something you do. It's just being a professional. But they told us don't go out. So when you're on the road, the highway to hell. So I just said made in hell because I knew it was going to piss everybody off.
Most of the time, you post things in the story that you know are going to piss people off and you enjoy it.
The reason I enjoy it is because they take these objects that only the marketing teams of heavy metal made what people think they are today.
Yeah.
Does anybody understand that? I know Jeff Bell's around. He's no rocker. He gets it. He's here. My point is, Brett, you know what I mean? They take things from, and it was in the right at the end of the 70s, the 78 through like 92. They took all those emblems, the media group, so they could sell more because all that did was make headbangers want to go up like, yeah, man, we'll wear devil shirts. Fuck yeah, we'll buy 10 of them or steal them. But then it also made every other organization that was against it. If anybody knows what I mean by all that, I'm dating myself, but if anybody remembers that.
I mean, you are dating yourself, but.
But listen. So they took that. So that's why I do it, because I can't believe we're in 2023 and people still fall into that trap.
They always will.
Oh, there's no such thing as ghosts. Listen, I watched one walk right into the room and yank Jimmy's shirt. You don't fucking tell me what the hell's in there.
Trust me.
They yanked out my shirt first.
It sure did.
Jimmy
Jimmy had a boner running all over his shit.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So they still do that kind of stuff.
Even with UFO stuff, I get it all the time that I'm supporting the devil, and I'm being a ufologist is supporting the devil, and I'm showcasing his demons that are coming and visiting, and taking people.
I wish it was the demons coming and visiting. The last thing I want to deal with is aliens coming and
I'm
visiting.
like, okay, it's not all right.
So that's another thing I want to get on.
For the information.
Tell that story real quick. I mean, I'm not really so much believing it, but I want to hear what you guys think about that. And I don't know if you heard of it, Brett, but the aliens, I guess, that crashed in this guy's backyard in Vegas. I'm not sure if I buy that yet.
I don't think I don't buy it either. I think it's 100% bullshit.
I was wondering what you were going to say.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going. Now, with me saying that, I'm not going to be shocked if it's not.
Well, I mean, I look at it like this too. I mean, I watched all the footage. I listened to his voice. I watched him make his own video. He left out a lot of things. He could have put a lot of things in there as well too, and he didn't. And it's all just up in the air, just thrown to the wayside, saying, "Oh, I couldn't post this, or I couldn't do this, I couldn't say this. They cut the camera off. I couldn't do this." So, I mean, they make it all mysterious and everything. I mean, the thing in the sky, I think, was real. I think that came down. Who knows what it was? But as far as these guys out drinking Coronas, working on a truck, saying that they had these, and then I saw this video that it showed this being like crouched down and moving around. I don't buy that either.
Fake. That's fake.
It is fake. I totally agree. It's I don't buy that at all.
The video is fake. Most people that are using that video is just to give a visual of like.
Well, it's a hype. They just hype it up, and all they could say is like they had a fucking ring on the ground. That could have been a cockfight. Those guys were Hispanics. It could have been. Who knows what the fuck's going on out there? Who knows? I just think it's bullshit.
Here's my point. If any one of us saw that and we filmed it, we're dead. We're not going to be alive the next month making fucking videos about it. I'm sorry, you're gone, man. They're not going to be like,
why you're gone? Why you're gone? Because you're posting the entire fucking video. And you're not going to cut it. That's why.
Yeah.
So I think they'd kill you right before you. I think if it landed at your house, you'd be run back there, something weird would happen, and you would just disappear. You wouldn't be making videos the next day. Something's going on. There's two things. One, this is another scare tactic that the bright idea of our wonderful government has planned to try to scare people and to doing other shit, because they do. Now, I'm not telling you that aliens aren't real, because I 100% think that there's a lot of that going on. I don't think they're just landing here now. I think they've been here for a long time dealing with things. You go back to Eisenhower, he signed a treaty with aliens. So what the fuck is that? They didn't tell me that in school, but he signed a treaty, which is out by that Skinwalker Ranch, where they were allowed to do what they do, and we negotiated with them. And then I told Brittany, I said, well, if you watch American Horror Story and you watch that very last season, it touches on all that at the last. So the middle of the series jumps from ghosts and babies, people drinking babies' blood in the movies, to aliens, all the way down to Nixon. They tied it into Watergate and all kinds of shit. There was this last scene where this alien came in. It was a woman-like creature, and she floated in, and her eyes, you couldn't really see her eyes. And one guy tried to disagree, and it was all about nuclear weapons, and she fried that bastard right. She just looked at him, and he turned to dust. And Nixon was like, all right, we'll just, you know how they do the acting. And I love Nixon. He was cool. But, I mean, you're going all the way back to when Eisenhower was signing treaties with extraterrestrials.
I just think,
I mean, that's crazy.
The thing I always say, and my friend Ben says too, is the fact that we give the government way too much credit for when we're like, oh, they would make, people disappear or whatever. And it's like, no, at this point, they know that the general public isn't going to believe anything that these people say. So there is a lot of mixed communication of what's happening, because it's been a really deep investigation through Vegas all the way through till now in regards to this family. And, the government does know how to at least play it smart, in the sense that if for any reason we did make these people go away, well, guess what? Then they just brought attention on themselves, because there were enough people in the neighborhood saying that they had seen blacked out SUVs. So that's just enough to draw attention. So they're not going to make these people go away. It's better just to make them look like they're ignorant or they're stupid or something happened and they're making the whole thing up. Now, I do think that it's possible that something did fall. I do think the one body cam probably is just showcasing a meteorite, but I think that there was something that was hit during the meteorite, because we had multiple meteors shown from Utah all the way to California. I do think it hit something, but I think it was actually something for U.S. intelligence. And I think that if anything did crash, because we have ring cameras that do sound like something did crash, that it's most likely that. If you want my back to it.
I think any one of us go outside and try to look in the sky for something cool, don't we? I've seen some shit.
Of course.
The one time I was most scared is when Elon was sending up his goddamn satellites. He didn't tell nobody. And you go out there, there's like 21,000 satellites in a circle. And that was during COVID. So I'm high as fuck, and I'm building a tree house. My neighbor goes, Troy, look at the sky. Listen, why that was like, well, they're coming. We're fucked.
You can't say that line again.
I'm like,
high as fuck, building a tree house.
I was right, high as fuck building a tree house. And I'm looking over at this thing, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like Washington, D.C. area. They're all landing there. That's what's going on, man. It was like part of the sky, right? And if you look on the map, that's right where Washington is. I'm like, well, we're dead. So I just was like, I don't want to see this. So I was thinking about going inside, just buttering up my pistol. It's going to take me, man. They can have what's left of me, but this little energy, he's going to be leaving that night. He's leaving. Gone.
It did freak out a lot of people, because it was happening during COVID, and it was all Starlink. And nobody had ever seen a train of lights in a row like that before, and it really freaked out.
One end of the flat Earth to the other end of the flat Earth was touching. That's all I can tell you. I will. That's right. I will start adding foil to it. It was crazy, but I do believe they've been here. I think there's a lot of people that negotiate.
Adding an immediate.
One of the things that I always found really interesting was, and we don't touch on a lot, but it's going to fall along with you there, Clever Ray. I notice that you do a lot of books, novelty books about like vampires, and I see you promote a lot of that stuff. So I often wonder, and I know that there's truth behind a lot of it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these stories that we do, whether it be with vampires, werewolves, aliens, or whatever, I don't think we just sit around a campfire and make that up. So I do think that there's some truth to a lot of that stuff, and I think most of us here have had really enough experiences to understand that we're taught that it's not logical and it's not real. but it really is. So I think that that's something that we need to think about as well. So there's got to be a lot of truth to that. Like, so when your stories and stuff that you get with your books and stuff, I mean, what kind, do you think there's a lot of truth behind a lot of that stuff? I know there was
a lot of authors pull it from stories that have already been talked about, from folklore, from different religions and all that. That's how a lot of it came together. A lot of different retellings.
Now, what I thought was really cool, and Brittany, you're going to know the location. I know it was somewhere in Europe. They had an entire grave site where they had exhumed for archaeology, and every one of them skulls had a rock or a brick shoved in its mouth.
Oh, wow.
Yep. It was in northern England.
And they were vampires. They were all vampires. And they all had, because they didn't want them to come back, so that once they were dead, they stuffed that in there.
Yep.
Or there's been places where they found bodies with no head.
Or the head is severed and placed between the legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, if you're going to get out of your way to be chopping people's heads off or sticking bricks in their mouths at that time, we don't have TV and cable and all this other shit. I mean, there's got to be some truth to that.
Well, then think about too all the vampire kits they sold, or they had, who had most of those? I've seen them in museums, like vampire kits and stuff, and they dated back to the 1600s, 1500s, like long time ago.
Europe is a big push in Europe.
There's one in Tallahassee at the Car Museum in Tallahassee. Have you seen it?
Yes.
It has the vampire kit in the glass case. I wanted to buy that bitch. I wanted to take it. It was so cool. It was cool as hell.
If you want one really bad, Jimmy, in St. Augustine in the Novelty Oddity Shop, they have one at the very back of the store.
What is it, like 10 grand?
No, it's not. It's not that much. I don't know. I don't know if it's a replica or if it's like an actual dated period piece, but it is for sale in the back. I didn't look to see how much it was.
If this was Jimmy 10 years ago, I'd be driving there in the morning to go buy it. Just so you know that.
I think that's amazing, and there's so much truth to what we're saying. Let me touch on this. Everybody doesn't like this. There's a lot of things we don't like, but when I hear the word Hitler, I not only think about the horror he caused to a race of people and people who have religious beliefs, but what he was doing on aside from that. He was accused of having his own Stonehenge where they worked. He also was in the Arctic researching pyramids before anybody got there. Hitler was now.
Yep.
And when we got there, we threw him out. I mean, the Americans threw him out. That's all legit. Never really explained why he was there, but he was there. He also was hunting for the Holy Grail, the Ark, and the spear that pierced Christ.
I can tell you why he was in Antarctica and up in the
he was looking for all those biblical artifacts. Supposedly he found two, and from what I was just researching it again, and the Vatican got something back, and they have it back. But that Hitler was doing all this before anybody, before holy rollers and all the shit, before they were doing Christmas plays at the church and drinking Hitler was like, we got to find this, this, and this.
Hitler broke the mold for time travel. He created the Glock, which was the Nazi bell, which was basically a UFO made out of red mercury, was what they used to power this thing. When he was establishing this through his Majestic 12, which you've ever heard that term, that came from the Nazi period with Hitler. So that these mysterious 12 men had given insight to him that in the Arctics was a crashed true artifact from space, from the star people, and he needed to retrieve it to get more information to basically recreate and help aid his bell. He only made 2 bells. One vanished basically in thin air in testing, and the other one was hidden after the Nazi war. Basically.
Yeah, but it also showed up for like 12 to 13 minutes or something in Brazil.
Oh, yeah, it was documented
and then vanished again.
Yep. And
then the people that worked for him disappeared. And the photos that they have of those people, they don't even look like they're from that time, first of all. And then we took his main guy away, and he put us on the moon, supposedly. I mean, according to history. It was that German guy that worked for Hitler that came to us that put us on the moon.
Yep.
So, and I want to say this: when we as people study animals, we do the same thing to those animals that he did to humans. Think about that. So when I think of Hitler, sometimes was he even human to begin with? He looked at a whole race of people or people with an ideology as a contaminant, and he wanted to exterminate it like a virus.
Yep.
That's what he did. He wanted to make a superhuman race. So that's what he was doing when he was testing and sewing people together and putting other people's brains and other brains. Horrible things, but what he was trying to do was perfect a race of people. They were dying in their eyes, crazy stuff. So was he even human?
But it's interesting because there's some of the stuff that when you touch into where he was trying to do human and animal to see how we do that. Some of that actually came from ancient Egypt, believe it or not, because through the hieroglyphs and what we've learned through some of the culture pieces through Egypt and Egyptian cultures and Egyptology, we're learning that some of these, like, you know how like they're like, oh, that must have just been head dressing. No, they believe that they were successful in certain times making half animal, half human. So it's believed that he started trying to implicate that into his work, trying to see how we can do it, because it had to be done by another race, which means he can do it too. So he was testing on that based off of Egyptology and some of what at that time they believed that Egyptians were doing and manifesting.
And he did have hybrid animals in a forest, but it was a zoo. It was called Hitler's. Where was it? Austria. It was in Austria.
I think it was just Hitler's zoo.
When his Jurassic Zoo he had in there, and they said he had brought. If you read about it, Jimmy, it'll blow your mind. Like he had.
Wasn't there a movie that was based on something?
Well, yeah, you're talking about the zookeeper's wife.
Yeah, that was over there,
that
right?
That wasn't based on what he was doing. He had.
Okay.
He was collecting from that. Okay, so when he came in and took the buffalo, and then they killed whatever else they wanted, or it blew up, he loved buffalo. So he was taking a lot of high-end bison and stuff and all that stuff for his Jurassic Zoo. And they said that he brought back and hybridized animals that were like unheard of. And when he was supposedly killed, which we don't know if he ever was, they never found his body. They burnt that zoo down and everything in it.
Animals included, right?
Everything. They killed everything he was doing. He was such an atrocity to the world. They ruined a lot of his art too, but people don't realize that Hitler was an artist. So he had tons and tons of artwork.
They did, Michael.
He was really good too. He was a great artist, and there was a lot to him. There was a lot of theories to him, and that's why he started being such a hater. So, but yeah, he was doing all that stuff where he was putting like people's heads, like brains on other. It was insane. Now I'm not condoning that behavior, but he was treating human beings and animals that he didn't agree with as science projects. The same way we do to a lot of animals now, like, oh, we're doing research. Well, can't we just take them 10 feet up there and put them back in the water? No, they hatched here in the lava. If they fall, they die. It's nature. And I go, well, nature is us. And we just happen to be here at this time when they popped out. So I'm going to take nature and I'm going to make this nature work for these guys. Because if I wasn't here, I wouldn't know, right? So that's nature too. So he looked at that the same way. And so I find that he was looking at all the stuff everybody wants and what all the Indiana Jones movies were about long before anybody else was.
Yeah.
So how did he have access to that, I guess, is the great question, Brittany. How did he know about all that? He knew more about the Egyptian studies than anybody else did at that time.
Well, because it was believed that he had already been there. Like I said, they truly believe that he cracked the time code. And when he cracked it, now Tesla, mind you, he also too cracked that code. And he spilled his beans to, believe it or not, just a cafe employee that he had befriended when he was in his older years before he died. And he had sat down with him one day and basically said to him at the local cafe, and he was like, did you ever time travel? And he was like, you know what, son, there was one time that when I was doing my tests, I was in the past, present, and future all at the same time, but I could never replicate it again. So it does happen. It has happened. And Tesla was also, involved in the Philadelphia experiment. But to take it back.
Crazy shit.
Yeah. And it was funny because Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla were very good friends. And there was corresponding letters between the two where Einstein had been offered the position first to help on the Philadelphia experiment with the government. And Einstein turned it down because he didn't like it. He felt it was inhumane what they were going to do by basically taking our particles and making us nothing to cloak us in battle. And it was inhumane. He didn't want anything to do with it. And they approached Nikola Tesla. And Tesla considered the position, and Einstein had written him this long letter just basically saying, please, you're my friend. Don't be a part of this. Don't be associated with it, because once you're in with them, they control you. And allegedly, he took the position, and thus why when he died, his trunks were all taken before the local police department could even exhume the body, before they could even confirm.
Tesla was awesome. He did some shit.
Oh, he was involved in so much, because that, that man's brain was, through the roof.
The man who invented light bulbs, invented the EVP. He was talking to the supernatural, via EVP before that was even a thing too, and he invented the light bulb.
Yeah, we're talking about people that were extremely. I mean, Thomas Edison was another brilliant man. I mean, being in Virginia City, I could actually see the original wiring in one of the main houses there that he put in himself with his own hands. And you're sitting there going, these people were ahead of their time and so advanced and so intellectual. And you just wonder, where that came from. I mean, Nikola Tesla, when he was born, a lightning strike hit. And I guess his mom said, I just know my son's going to do something great. And it was like, how amazing that when your son's born, a lightning bolt hits the house that you're giving birth in the moment Nikola Tesla is born. And
well, that's the they were sending a supernatural person down into that body, because that baby and they said, pew.
Yeah, but the cool part is then he goes on to work by harnessing lightning to create electricity, light bulbs, powering things through the power of energy within our frequency. Just some fascinating stuff.
Let me spin. I'm trying to slow Brett down. He's talking too much, but let me spin down. So here's what's cool for those of you that don't know watching, and a lot of you do, but most of you don't. The Egyptians kept crocodiles as pets, and they were touring through the Science Center up here, Motley Science Center in Tampa, a few years back, not a few, but a little further back in COVID, and they brought those crocodiles there, those mummified crocs with their kings, dude. So they had this guy that looked like Jimmy, dude, with a beard, all dried up and shit, laying in the middle, and all the crocodiles were left around him, and they all look like the Sukas. They all look like the Eastern Africans, and they were just amazing, Jimmy. So anytime they died, and the guy was like 38 when he died, they didn't live long back then,
Yeah.
They were old men by 38. They were old kings already, Fucking, can you imagine?
Nuts. That's my next year. Bye, guys.
Bye, Jimmy. Brett and I wouldn't be here anymore. But
no.
But they had crocs, and they were buried with their pet crocodiles. So there was some significance to owning crocs as well. I mean, it wasn't just
Yeah, but the sad part is when he died, all of them died with him. So it's like they were living their lives. It's like, shit, the king's dead. We're dead. Like, that's just how it happened. Didn't matter. Your women died. You died. All your animals died. When you go, that's just part of the take everybody with you. Like,
look, man, it's
feel
like
bad for those crocs.
It's like I said on the thing, life is just, or death is life without bones.
Yep.
That's something I'm saying, because
a lot of those Niles, though, they weren't gigantic, right? They were smaller Niles, weren't they? Like the ones that were mummified with them, like 4 to 6 feet, 4 to 7 feet, things like that.
Yeah, they weren't like gigantic. The biggest one might have been 7, 8 feet, man. And then they had them with babies, and all the babies were wrapped in with the mom.
Yeah, I saw them. I've seen them before in a museum. I don't know. I think I was traveling. We went and saw them.
They all got to go. That'd be like Jimmy died tomorrow. Then be like, well, all the animals outside got to be shot.
Well, I'm fucked because I don't have any suitcase.
That's all right. You got cool shit in that. But
I want to circle it back though, because you had mentioned something for Clever Ray, and I think that this is something she would appreciate, especially with being an author in the genre that she's in. When we were talking about vampires and stuff, we forgot one incredible topic, which is werewolves and where they come from in our history, right?
They look like
one of the known historical, but somehow got all the way down hidden in werewolf history. I don't know why. One of the most
It's Ohio.
authentic and incredible werewolf stories to date came out of Ireland, in old Ireland, by basically a priest who met two werewolves, met a male as his wife was dying, spoke to the priest to come and give her the last rites. And he was shocked. He thought, I've either been out in the sun on this, this cart for too long. And there's two conflicting stories on how.
I know it's a lie. All right.
No, hold on how this happened. And so I deep researched to the point even when I was in Ireland, I spoke to people within what was considered the old Ireland part of West. Can't think of the name of it. It's coming down from Dublin as you're heading down into and over through the south. It'll come to me. Anyway, but basically he gave the werewolf last rites, but when he came down to her because she was dying, he actually lifted parts of her fur and was exposed a human woman. He was seeing like what actually would look like a human woman female structure. So he was so taken back by this and confused and conflicted, but he went ahead against his own teachings and gave the last rites to this wolf. He then spoke to the male wolf, explained that they were under a 7-year curse, that this curse had been plagued their family and their basically their lineage for years. And every 7 years, a male and a female from their clan, and it was the Alta clan, had to basically convert into werewolf, live in the woods for 7 years. And then they would convert back and 2 more would take its place. So he was so taken from this and felt that he had gone against God. And it was this whole thing that he ended up sending a direct message to the Vatican, explaining what he had done, saying, I'm willing to give up my rights as a priest. I'm getting rid of it, etc., etc. Please forgive me of my sins and my trespasses. And then
anytime, Dan.
He's asked to come to the Vatican. So he goes to the Vatican, and before the Vatican Council, they actually tell him that what he did was right, that he is supposed to give the last rites to a werewolf. And at that time, this was actually in the 12th century. We're talking 1120, I believe, was the actual date that this took place, that they actually wrote into what you can give last rites to werewolves. And I actually saw that documentation myself, that you could give the last rites to werewolves to save their souls so their souls are not damned. And they actually honored him by doing the right act and doing the right thing by God, by giving this werewolf the last rites before they died. And it became a huge history within this part of Ireland. And they believe that that clan still exists today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, this is in Ireland, you said, right?
So like,
yes.
So they.
I was looking up the map and I was looking to see, like you said. So
he loves research.
Wexford. It would be in the area of Wexford.
Wexford?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Wexford is like way down on the coast.
That's what I'm talking about. You come down from Dublin, you're heading south down, you go all the way down into Wexford because we've got Blarney Castle. I spent many years there.
I don't know if you can see it, but Wexford is like
way
the fuck down here.
Right.
Werewolves live.
Exactly. So if you go way down there's a whole bunch of forest regions and forest lands that are still very protected to this day. Just like the Ring of Kerry is another protected national park in Killarney, Ireland. And it's still today, like homes, some of the original Irish red deer. And you can't really find them in other parts of the southern regions of Ireland. But if you go there, I got the opportunity with Mom, Troy, you remember this.
Yeah, I know.
We actually rode horseback through the Killarney National. And when I got the chance to gallop with my horse, the red deer saw us galloping, came out of the woods and ran with us. It was the coolest experience ever.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It could be, a lot of people talk about those are the werewolf people, as they call them, but they actually, they always want to claim everything as a disease or a virus or a mutation. Yeah. But where did that mutation come from? So with, again, you can take science as much as you want, but there's always some fact there.
So I see werewolf furries all the time, like at Walmart, Sometimes they're
Oh
like,
my God, that's not the same thing. Like
I'm trying to be serious. You're fucking it up. Now hold on. So do they get? I mean, do they don't come out of those suits, man? They eat in them and everything. They got little tubes. So listen. Yes, actually, it's a domesticated werewolf. So when they die, right, or they ran over by a car, because I hear they can't see well. They got these big eyes, but they can't see. They just see very straight. I've heard. You know what I'm saying? Because one of them tried to hump a bear. That he was all, I don't know, and he killed him. Remember that? That happened. So did he get last rights? I mean, do you get furry wolfy rights? And then what
I think anybody can get their last rights if they're dying. And
do fox lives matter too? I want to know.
Everything on this planet can get its last rights.
So you're telling me that there's some small fries out there. There's no werefoxes.
I'm sure there's werefoxes and they can get their last rights.
Because I mean, the werewolf usually bites a big dude.
Listen,
even nastier, but a werefox would be good for a lot of them guys.
If you just dig and do a little research, you will find where the Vatican themselves actually came out and did state. Now, I'm not talking about the public statement where they said, "Oh yes, we would bless our extraterrestrial brothers." No. They did come out and actually state that they are aware of our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters. They are not afraid of them. They are aware of them. They've been around a long time. And they too can receive any kind of last rites, should they ask for it. So
what are the last rites? I mean, are you allowed to
the last rites are basically just your prayer to save your soul, to make sure that your soul is being released.
Fucking dipshit your whole life
to save your soul.
Well, I'm not going to change now. I mean, if that's all you got to do.
A lot of people do that, especially like in the vampires and things like that. People that think that by doing this, my soul may be damned, right? That I'm damned because of this action. That's why even this priest at the time of giving the last rites to the werewolf felt like it was an evil thing that he did, because this thing is considered demonic in the house of what he, basically.
That's right. It's a fast pass, man.
Fast pass. Jeez, Jimmy.
True. Yep, I've seen those. And when they don't look like Mr. Miyagi when they grow up, they don't look like that. They have really long hair, bro. That looks like Mr. Miyagi. I all looked at me like wax on wax. I thought I was watching Karate Kid when you did that. Who is that?
Jeff said it to me.
That's how they look, though. They look like little wolf babies, and they have like a face. But when they get older, the hair like grows all the way over their face, as Ashley was talking about.
Well, and don't forget too, vampires drink blood.
They still do.
But do you know why?
Because it's good. I think it's good. I do it. I hear they do it for iron.
No. God, no. I know you know the answer. The reason they drank the blood was because
they make pills for that.
The time that this was around, which was in the 14th to 15th century, was because they believed at that time the soul was in the blood. So when you drink the blood, you are then taking the young soul from that person's body, rejuvenating your own for immortal life. Therefore, they would drink the blood for the soul that they were getting.
Those people were fucked.
And the souls, yeah.
Well, they didn't get to keep their soul. They got sucked dry of everything.
It's not in the soul, but that's what they believed.
No, but I mean, I know, but that means that person that was innocently out getting a muffin, right? I can imagine it's a cobblestone. They're like walking along with a little wick basket. They get a muffin. Someone like you comes out and bites them in the neck. And as they're looking up at their savior, and he's going to be like, no, I'm sorry. Vampires get to take all the good stuff.
Yeah.
What if that was a good person?
I'm telling you historical stuff here. I don't know what you want. I don't have answers.
The cobblestone shopper rights. They have rights. They need to get together.
Got rights.
Start burning the town down, getting these werewolves and vampires out of here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, come together.
So Clever, I want to know, have you written about any type of these stories that we're talking about tonight?
So I'm not an author. I work with a bunch of authors.
Okay.
Whether it's like dark romance, retellings, horror, thriller, all sorts. But yes, I have read, and I do have a few authors that have written about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and do you like it?
I love it.
You gravitate to it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you could write a book, let's just say you wanted to all of a sudden say, I'm going to write my own book today. What would it be about? Like, I'm just curious.
Ooh.
What would be the genre?
Don't judge. But I
No.
gotta think for Vlad. It'd be like a spicy retelling with him. Very
Oh,
spicy.
oh yeah.
Very spicy. I've got some fantasies.
So we're saying, is it like Vlad 50 Shades of Grey, Vlad?
Darker.
No, 50 Shades
Darker.
of Red.
Darker. 50 Shades of Grey. is
Shades of
not-
Red. See, that's a perfect name of the book. 50. Well, that could be taken the wrong turn by women, though. That could be really bad.
I don't know what we're laughing at.
That's what
but
trigger
it's
warnings are
funny.
for, though. You just put the trigger warnings on the first page of the book, and you're good.
It's true. But you have to make sure it'd be like, this isn't for the one time a month we're talking about. This
Yeah.
is something else.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Cynthia's right. I prefer captains too. I've got a thing for captains.
That's all.
There's a lot you could do with that one.
Mm-hmm. A lot.
Sea captains, pirate captains. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That could just keep going and going and
But
going.
could they all be vampire pirate captains?
You could
You know
totally
what?
put
You
that
could-
in.
I would think it would be a cool story. Like a guy like all of us, we all were all vampires, everybody on this show, but we were way back in like the 14th century. But we
You know,
lived
I
on
have
a
to actually write a
ship.
book.
We lived on a ship.
Holly just came up with a good name. 50 Steaks with Heads.
Ooh, I like
Because
that.
Holly is fucking awesome, and she would say something.
I like that though.
I
That's
do
a good
too.
one.
That's clever.
Actually, you could do like what they did with Abraham Lincoln, right? How they did that whole trilogy, which was, I think, so badass. You know,
The
Abe
Vampire
Lincoln,
Slayer.
Lincoln the Vampire. That's
Yeah.
That
freaking
was a
still
killer
one of my
movie.
favorite movies.
Yeah.
Done. Because
Damn,
I like when you can
So
mix
good.
some history with some of that
With-
fiction and fantasy. I think it's the coolest
or
shit.
folklore
You could,
or reality.
or folklore. But I think it's so cool because you could literally do like Blackbeard as a vampire because his history is brutal, and you
Brutal.
could make it make sense. Like you could go really
Yeah.
through and be like, that's why he was never seen again. Well, no shit, he's a vampire. Can you hide? Like found himself a cove.
Well, you
living
can tell
out his
too, like
life.
when you're reading a book that is about a retelling, you can tell when the author does their research and when the author doesn't.
Oh, for sure.
You can tell.
Yeah, that's for sure. I will agree with that.
I think we should write stories about our lives. That would be a fun book. I would totally read the book of Jimmy.
Oh, I
The
would.
book of Jimmy.
He's like, boy, listen here. You listen here.
The story
We all
on the
get
road.
we all get a chapter. We all get a chapter.
That's a great title, though. The Book of Jimmy.
The
Like,
book of Jimmy.
done.
I'd read it.
Make it like a leather bind to the front with like the wrap through, and it just says the Book of Jimmy. Make it look.
That would be
dated.
really cool.
And then the bonus book that would come with it would be Life and Times of Troy and Brett.
Yes.
You would need a few. You would need some
Talk about a
series.
trigger
That would be a
warning.
series. That would be a series.
A trigger warning. Good. God, I don't even think we can write down some of that stuff and get to be allowed.
Based on, then you're allowed. Just
Okay,
with
based
based
on
on, then they're like,
They would
oh, they fluffed some of that, or did they? No, they didn't. My brother and my other brother Brett, trust me, they got into some crazy crap when I was little.
I believe it.
There'd be
Good.
many
I really don't think
complaints.
you would believe it. I really don't think you
It's
would.
fucking-
I honestly don't even know how my mom has
Whoa.
a single any hair on her head.
I've got stories for days. I know I'm soft spoken, but
Well,
But then you do need to write a book.
you would not believe.
no.
The kinky retelling of
Ashley, stop.
He's so silly with that stuff.
I
But
can't.
what I'm saying is, I think it would be fun, but I mean, some of the things when they were happening in front of me, I didn't believe. So,
Frisky ghost stories. That's what it should say, Dan.
frisky.
Frisky ghost
yeah,
stories.
chapter 9, Frisk.
Because let me tell you what, if you go investigating with
Oh,
Jimmy,
shirt yanking. Read it right.
I did read it right. I'm saying, but my head
Oh, shirt
went
yanking.
to, listen, but my head went to Frisky ghost stories, right? That you tell in the night. And you talk about when we investigate with Jimmy, how he's always the one that they want to touch. And you
Good
literally
Jimmy.
get into those cases.
Remember when
Jealous.
what did the,
Jimmy just gets straight up molested or what?
All the time. All the time.
what did the psychic guy say when we were in that room with him? And Jimmy's like,
The
oh,
molestation of Jim.
he was leaning down. He's like, I can't see
Third
anything.
chapter.
He goes, oh, he was a molester. Remember?
Yes, I do. Michael told me
goes,
that.
"Great."
Yeah. I remember when Jimmy was
a
like,
molester, and he
and
went
Jimmy
right to
was
you.
my back is really cold. And it was like, oh, because he was like,
Yeah.
"God, that's
I
the guy
need out.
from
Let me
India."
out.
Yeah.
Nah, seriously though, that there was a full-fledged and it doesn't matter if people believe in it or they don't. Full-fledged apparition
Yeah.
leaned around Jimmy and came through the wall, and we had people that didn't even believe in shit. And
Saw
all,
it.
oh my god, they like oh my god, it was amazing. It was like one of the coolest things. You look at this thing, and all I could think of was that thing from the movie The Abyss.
Yep.
That's all I could think of, and it was right by Jimmy, and it was freaking weird.
That
So
thing
cool.
came in, looked at Jimmy in the face, like, and
That's how I did look.
Jimmy was facing us in the dark hallway, and this thing came out like a freaking jellyfish movement, bioluminescent in color. No, you couldn't see, like, you could see where eye sockets were in the nose and mouth, but everything was neutral color. Everything was the same color, but it was like bioluminescent, changing colors constantly. Comes straight out, looks at Jimmy. And I remember I was doing something. I looked down. Troy was talking to Michael this way. I went, "What is that?" And Troy goes, "What the F?" And it looked at Jimmy, and then it looked right down at us. And it was like so
It stared. It just straight up stared
at us.
That's so freaking cool.
And Michael was like, "Oh yeah, I brought him in." And Jimmy's like, "Is it to my right?" I'm feeling something right here. And Michael's like, "Yes, Jimmy, just calm down, because you won't be able to see it because it's in your personal space. You can't see it, but we can." And then he had a lady stand next to him, and she goes, "Oh, I see it. It's right here." And she wasn't even a believer.
Legit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it just looked at Jimmy, and it went freaking weird right back in the wall, and it was gone.
Oh, that's so
It was like,
I
what?
remember we went upstairs too. I think Jimmy got in
That's
there
so
before me. Remember when you went in that bedroom?
Oh yeah, the one we were all cold in, Jimmy. Remember?
Well, I didn't get in there
Yep.
yet. He had still had me in that one cabin closet where that
Yep.
other girl came in, was pissed at those two girls for sleeping with her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the time I got up there, Jimmy said the room's cool, and I saw 3 Native Americans standing in that room when I went in, and then this one thing was flying around and got into that lady and made her like sick, but it was insane, and that's all video. And I remember yelling like the room's bending.
And I'll tell you something. 2 nights ago, I got a phone call.
I wish it was high. It would have been better.
A person who knows the owner of the restaurant that's across from that building I took you guys into. They're having a major uptick in activity, and they don't know why. And I said, "Guys, that whole street's full of garbage. Are you kidding me? I've been investigating that street for years."
That cat's down there too. That black cat. He still lives there.
We saw that cat that night.
Yep, he walked out of the wall. I'm not bullshitting you. It might have been a whole.
No,
No,
he-
we
no,
rolled
he's
up
been
on
there
that
forever.
fucking scooter, and that bitch came walking out, and we're just
Yep.
like, "Yep."
I mean, I went back up there and he did. He came out. It was a good time.
Because that black cat, like I told you, Troy, I said, because you're like, "Oh, this black cat like came right off the wall." And I said, "Do you know that black cat has been documented for over 30 years? It's the same black cat because its tail is cut. It's the same. That cat, it's not the same cat. It's a ghost cat. It is. Nobody knows why he's there. He'll rub your leg and he disappears. He comes in and out of his own dimension. He's just living there."
Dan, you're
Low. Oh, geez, Louise.
Oh, let you. Hey, God, let me go to the comments.
I think Daniel's drinking Jack Daniels.
Woo! Bobby Mackey's in the well. Yeah. That's up in
Yeah,
Kentucky.
Jeff, that would be a little too much.
Kentucky. Yeah, I'm trying to set that up.
I think that would be a pretty
I'm
good
trying
thing
to set
do.
that up.
Definitely, that would be a really good thing to do. That'd be a good thing to do, Jimmy.
Yep.
Mhm.
We got to make sure me and Jimmy aren't out, or Jimmy's not out on the road either, too, or me and him both at the same time.
It would have to be, you know how hot it gets in St. Augustine?
Brett, maybe we'll go when you're
It
in
needs to
town,
be
Brett.
Yeah, well,
Now, when I come out, honestly, I'm not even bullshitting you guys. When I come out, I want to be as much involved as possible in that. I
then
really do.
when Brett comes, we'll plan it when Brett gets here.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I really do.
I'm now getting freaking location calls, which I don't want, but I'll just start
Let's do
lining some couple up for.
Maybe you'll get Clever Ray to go, maybe.
I want to go.
She'll tell you, "I'll be there at 5 o'clock. She won't call you for a whole 6 months. I don't know, man. I got caught up at the restaurant, and that's a long time.
Oh, that's what
He's
we
not
should
wrong.
do. Take Brett to Ma Barker.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, Jeff
You hear that, Jeff?
got us in the Ma Barker house.
Yeah, Jeff, we got to go back.
This woman right here hooked us up, Jeff Bell. I got to give him some recognition. The oldest mafia shootout in history was the Ma Barker house. The furniture's still in there. Jimmy and I found the chest. We were looking at all the different things that they had from, I mean, that is an amazing place. Bullet holes in the wall, through the doors, everything's there.
And
Jeff got us in there. It was a great night.
I did my my dowsing rods, and I also confirmed it with my infrared light. Not the infrared light, excuse me. My the glow in the dark light. I can't think of the name of the actual light right now that it's called, but it's the glow in the dark light. But I used it to find blood because there's iron in blood, even though it stains the wood and stuff. You can still actually locate where the blood was, and that's how I was able to find a lot of where the blood still remains in the house, and you can see it underneath the black light. That's what it's called. Excuse me.
Oh, wow.
You can still see it under the black light. I have black light flashlights, and you can still see it.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that'd be
I
cool.
remember that. We saw it. Yeah.
Remember, I showed you the staining difference in the woods.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Not-
thanks again, Jeff. That was really good stuff. We appreciate that.
Yeah, Jeff was having a fun time that night too. He was getting kicked out. Everybody's having a good time.
Well, then we need to definitely work on that when you get out here, Brett, for sure.
Let's do it.
I guess we'll end here. We ran 15 minutes over, but it's good. We still have a lot of people here looking at us. So if you guys came in late, you didn't catch the beginning of the show. It started out pretty funny. Check it out. You can find it on YouTube, the Motley Croc Show. You'll find all of us there. So we appreciate everybody coming out tonight and showing a little support and hanging out with us. And Jimmy, I appreciate you cutting away from that hard time out there. I know you're dealing with a storm, and Brett, I know it's still sun's out where you are. So
Yeah.
I know that your fucking window behind you cracked me up. It's awesome.
The light shining through.
he has a light bulb on top of his head. That's actually his aura, but the light in the background, those two white squares, that's daylight.
9:30, then the sun goes down.
Colorado.
It's almost like that here in the middle of summer. We get it till about 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
We still have daylight, and that's about it. But you guys get it till like 11:30. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And just a heads up, guys, remember I will be in Roswell at the end of the month. I will be doing lectures at the festival, the Roswell Incident event, lectures Saturday, Sunday, and panels on Saturday and Sunday night. I am going to try and go live so that I can talk to people, see everybody. I have a booth there at the museum, but I will be gone that weekend. But I fly out Friday, so I could still be here Thursday for the show before I leave. So
Nice.
Well, just remember too, Troy and I are going to be leaving Monday morning to Virginia, the Orange County Fair. We're going to be there. I think it's a 4 or 5 day fair, and so check that out. We'll post it, and then the Croc Show will be done from the road.
That would be so cool. We
oh,
will.
that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yep, we'll be in the hotel. So
That would be awesome. We'll be in
You
a
have to
hotel.
say it like Finn says it. Hotel.
the hotel.
My
I don't think
son
we'll
doesn't say it right at
go
all.
there, Ashley. We won't be fisting in there, but she sent a fist, with her.
I did see that. I was like,
yeah.
okay, we're gonna leave on that note.
Oh, Brittany said it was like, hell yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. I know what she meant. I got you, Ashley. I know what she meant. I know she's sitting on that couch right now, laughing her butt off. She probably can't breathe right now.
Punch fist and and I don't think so. I don't even want to do it, let alone.
Come over to my new Instagram. It's back up. I'm not suspected, please. The paranormal mama. See, she's dead. Damn near killed her.
Yeah, paranormal mama, whatever. That's good. So you got another thing.
It's the same thing. I just can be more funny and more me in the paranormal.
I haven't
It's
made
not
one
all
yet.
good.
Jimmy, you got one. Paranormal mama. Jimmy got one. And I think we got to start making them too. So we have them too. Sugar Daddy Jim.
Yeah. No way.
And he's like, "You guys, we're going to be able to blah, blah, fisting." Now, anyways, we appreciate the support, guys. Everybody coming out and saying hello to us tonight. I'm glad y'all came too. I'm glad you came on, Ray, finally to check it out. Brittany, as usual. Glad you had some good comments and some stuff that we.
Yeah.
Find me cover, Ray.
I know. I'm gonna DM you.
Oh, she's gonna slide into my DMs. Look at this.
Brit
Brit
I have
underscore-
questions, so I'm just gonna slide in there.
You can send it to me on Brit_investigates or the Paranormal Mama. I'll reach out to both. Those are both mine.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I reach out to Jimmy's all the time, but
Right into the DMs. I like that.
anyways, I want everybody to stay put. I'm gonna end the log. So I appreciate everybody coming out. So everybody here on the screen, sit tight. All right, guys, we appreciate you joining. And as
Bye,
always,
everybody. Thank you.
From the road. See you. Have a great night.
These guys.
See you guys.
Bye.